Hey everybody, what's up? How you doing today? Well, I hope you're all doing good. It's been a week, just a little over a week since my last video, and I thought, well, it's time. I've had this one topic on my mind for days and days. I don't know where it came from. It just popped into my head. It's a true story. It's something that really happened in my life when I was young. And I thought, I don't think I've ever talked about that. And I don't know why it popped into my head. It just did. And so I thought, well, that would be a good story to tell because I'm having a hard time coming up with topics. Because I've already talked about a lot of stuff that, I mean, go check out my videos. There's all kinds of information in there and uh, whimsical stuff and true stuff and stories and how to stuff and cooking and just take your pick. Okay, this story title is A Killer That Lived Across the Street. Yeah, and this is a true story. And it's about, uh, you know, when I lived in northern Kentucky. This was back in the uh, probably 1974. In the summer of 74 is the best I can uh, figure is when this occurred, when this took place. And w- w- me and my second husband, we had bought, this house, a house. Well, I had a different house, and then I put it up for sale and sold it, and then we bought this one. So anyway, um, my husband was a county cop. Yeah, he was a county police officer, and so which was kind of surreal. Anyway, we had this neighbor, and well, actually, it started out with an article in the newspaper about a woman's body that had been found uh, down under a bridge in downtown Covington, Kentucky, and which was about, I don't know, 10-15 minute drive from where we lived. But anyway, this woman, before she was, murdered, lived across the street from me. And her husband and the second husband, uh, and I can't remember exactly how many kids they had. I think they had maybe three. Uh, she had a teenage daughter, and I think two sons. I think. I mean, I can't remember every little detail because this was, you know, you're. I was about 24 or 25, somewhere through there. So we're talking 50 years ago. And so, anyway, uh, we read the article, in the paper that morning. And we knew who she was because she was a neighbor, you know. And so, anyway, her husband came knocking on our door. And, he's because my husband's a cop, I guess is the reason why he came over. So, anyway, he said, I guess you heard about my wife. They found her body and blah blah blah. I can't remember every word he said, but and then he was crying and weeping and everything. And So, you know, my husband gave him his condolences and stuff, and I'm standing there, next to my husband, or maybe right behind him, or whatever, but watching what's going on. And I got my eye peeled on this guy. I'm just, you know, looking at him. And so I don't know. He was there, stood there in the doorway. We didn't even, ask him in or anything. But, and then he left. So, maybe 5 minutes, he talked. And, of course, saying stuff like, you know, if there's anything I can do to try to help, find out who did this, and, you know, uh, just, let me know, and, I'll do everything I can to help out, and he's weeping and crying and stuff. So anyway, he leaves. And my husband said, "Oh, poor guy, man. He's really broken up, choked up, and uh, you know." And I just look at him astonished, and I said, "I don't think so." I said, "I don't believe what he just said. I mean, all I could see was crocodile tears. That was fake." I said, "I think he's the one who killed her." I said, "I think he did it." And he looked at me and, with a, rolled his eyes and, "Oh, come on. No, he didn't do it. And I said, "Well, he, I don't believe him." I said, "I think he's faking. I think, he's the one who killed her." And he said, "Well, how you know that?" And I said, "I don't know. It's just a feeling I have." I said, it just seemed fake to me. And so, anyway, a few days went by, and, you know, I'm kind of keeping an eye, from the window, living room window, across the street, you know, of comings and going and what's going on, and, so, but anyway, uh, I guess my husband had told, the detective on the case that, what I said, that, you know, and my wife, she thinks he's the one who did it, and so on, so on. And so, but anyway, they're investigating. And then I get a call one day, and they said, "Look, we need you to uh, get the kids and go somewhere, because we need to use your house for surveillance." And we got our eye on the guy across the street. And they said, his car's still not there. He's not home, right? And I said, "Yeah, right." I said, "Yeah, he left a while ago, and, I don't know when he'll be back, but he's not there right now." So I said, "Well, I'll, you know, scramble on out of here." So I got the kids, and we got in the car and left. And I didn't know where to go. I said, "Well, we had to find something to do." And I don't know. I think maybe I took them to McDonald's, and then uh, maybe to the park. I think we went to the park that day, and, just killing time until, because they said they'd let me know when I could, it was clear to come back home. And so anyway, there was a bedroom upstairs, a window, directly. You you could view across the street, the house across the street, because they lived directly across the street from me. And then from the living room, there were sheer curtains, but they could see what was going on. So, anyway, I found out later they were waiting for him to come back so they could arrest him, so they could nab him. And they didn't know if there was going to be a shootout or whatever. It was one reason why they had me leave. And I think they even had, a couple of the other neighbors to leave too. I'm not for sure on that, but anyway, um, what had happened, I found out later, was his stepdaughter, the woman's daughter. I think she might have been 15, 16, 17, somewhere through there. She was underage. She might have been 16. She had like long red hair and slim girl. And, but anyway, she was walking down the sidewalk one day and the cops pulled up next to her and told her they wanted to talk to her. So they took her down to the station and questioned her. Well, she confessed. She just let it all, she was a young girl and she told them everything. Told him where the gun was, where he had hidden it, what had happened. Um, See, him and his wife, they had split up. She was staying at a sister or somebody's house or a friend, like downtown. So we was in the suburbs. But anyway, so the deal was that the reason she left him was she found out that he was having an affair with her own daughter. And yeah, it was a good reason for her to leave, I guess. But I didn't know that because I didn't, you know, we weren't friends or anything. Had spoken to her, going out to the mailbox or being out in the front yard. She'd come out, say hi and stuff like that. But I really didn't know them, and I didn't know their business. What was going on as far as that went. But anyway, um, this girl confessed and told him the story, what had happened, where he had hid the gun and the uh, bloodstained clothing and all that. Seems like it was like out in the country down by a pond or something. He had hidden it. And so, anyway, I guess the cops went there and they had all the evidence they needed, you know. They had her confessions plus the weapon, the whole 9 yards. So, apparently that day, um, when he came home, they was ready for him and they took him into custody, arrested him. And I told my husband, I said, see, I told you. So anyway, about a week or so later, I got a letter from the police department thanking me for for my help. And, you know, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that was the time I was playing junior detective, you know. My husband couldn't believe it though. He said, I can't believe that you was right about him the whole time. He said, how did you know? I said, well, it's just woman's intuition. I said, I could just tell. Because I could pretty much spot most of the time a liar a mile away, you know. Especially if I've talked to them more than once, and they've, I and they like quite a lot, and then I figure it out. Can't believe everything that person tells you because they're just bullshitter. But anyway, how I don't know how I don't really don't know how I really knew. It was just a real strong feeling. And when I looked at him, I just did not see truth. I didn't see, I mean, it just looked to me like he was lying, and he was faking. And I mean, he did a good job of faking. I mean, he fooled my husband, and he's a cop, so, but maybe he just didn't have his radar on that day. But anyway, so that's the story of the killer who lived across the street from me. Yeah, and and I I got to play a small role in seeing him come to justice. But anyway, it was. I think he did it for he did it for the house. He did it for because she was going to divorce him, and he had a lot to lose: the home, the family, not just her, but just everything else. You know how it is. So anyway, he decided to get rid of her, and yeah, I was about 24 or 25. So, but anyway, that was a long time ago, and I got another little quick story I can tell. One time, well, we had some neighborhood teenagers, and these boys, they like coming down, hanging out, and uh, cutting up with my husband and stuff. And so one time, see, Rick was gone somewhere. I don't remember where, but anyway, his his cruiser was in the garage, and so me and these boys, we cooked up this joke to play on him. And anyway, my husband's name was Rick. But anyway, he uh, when he came back home, we made up this story. I said, we heard something weird out there, in the garage, and I don't know what it was, and we heard this noise. You need to go out there and check around. So he did, and the blue lights, that bar, with the uh, lights goes on top of a cruiser. We had taken it off and hid it, and told him that somebody stole it. He was freaking out, and then finally we said, got it. Said, "Yeah, here it is. We're just joking." All right, that's the end of that. But anyway, I got another story about the killer dog that lived inside my house. This was a German Shepherd, and it was a dog that uh, my husband had got to, because he decided he wanted to be a canine unit. And he had come across this dog that was a killer dog. It was so mean and so ferocious and bad that this girl gave him away, because I mean, whenever she had company, she had to lock the dog up in another room because he would attack people and bite. And I mean, he was a dangerous dog. And so anyway, I got some stories to tell about that situation. Wow, they were scary. Okay, so I'm gonna close this video down. We're up to 20 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed the story, and next time I'm ready to make a video, I'll do one on the killer dog that lived within my own house. this is this story is the killer, people killer, wife killer that lived across the street. Whoops, I lived across the street, and then. And then the next time I'll do a video on how I had to deal with this killer dog that lived with us. Okay, thanks for watching. Appreciate you, and I I'm just not in. I used to put out remember 3 to 4 videos a week, and now I'm lucky to do like one a week. I'm just, I don't know what it is. It's just, you got me. Okay, I hope to be back with some more thrilling stories, and now after the killer dog story, I don't know what's going to come after that. You'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're looking forward to the next one. And take care. Uh, love you. Hope you're all doing fine. And whatever, keep your eyes on the ball. The bouncing ball that just, things are getting weird out there, aren't they? Yeah, it's scary. I think that's part of the reason why, I'm having a problem with doing videos, is because it's just so darn wacky. And my mind isn't in a peaceful place most of the time. I mean, I have to really work hard on not letting everything that's happening, the scary stuff that's going on, and the cruel, insane world that's happening out there. I'm sure you all noticed and know what's going on. And, I hope you're dealing with it well. I try dealing with it, and a lot of times it's just escape. Been watching a lot of TV, and sleeping a lot. you know, Sleep is a good escape, but been having the weirdest, strangest dreams I've had for a long time. I mean, it's just, even my dreams that I'm dreaming lately is crazy wacko. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Peace. Love you. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Subscribe and like. Thank you. Thanks for watching.